Hello, everyone, and welcome to this conversation from the Light Review. And I'm happy to say that I'm talking this afternoon with Louis Smith and with Jamie Norris Green of LumiAdd. Now, if that's a new name to you, that's because it's a relatively new company with some fantastic new ideas, which is why we're taking the trouble to actually talk to these guys. Um, Before we set off, we thought, let's see what we're going to be talking about. So I charged these two with coming up with the three key words that underpin everything that LumiAdd means. There has to be three words. There's always three words. So it's a good place to start. And the three words that came back: sustainable, which as we go through the conversation, you'll know where that's coming from. Design, always happy to see the word design in there. What can possibly go wrong now? And freedom. Now that's one where I'm intrigued to see where that one actually takes us. But we're going to do that in order. We're going to start with sustainability, because we all have a sense that we understand what sustainable means. But I've got a feeling that we're going to learn now that LumiAdd is taking the whole sustainable issue a few steps further. So who should we kick off with? Jamie, do you want to start with what is it that is underpinning the difference between LumiAdd and well, let's just say the rest of the industry?
Yeah, okay. I mean, the three words you mentioned are our company mantra, if you like. So sustainable design, freedom, and the sustainable side of things. I guess the place to start there's lots of things that are sustainable about the way we're manufacturing these luminaires, but at the core is the material we're using. So it's a bio-based plastic or a polymer that's derived from cornstarch or sugarcane, and its carbon footprint is a lot lower than any other materials people are using to make conventional luminaires at the moment. The other side, apart from the material, which has the lower carbon footprint, is the way we're using this material is 3D printing, and that in itself brings a lot of sustainable positives, in that we only print what we use, what we make, so we don't waste anything. So we don't have shelves full of stock that we have to clear or throw away, worst case, which does happen. We have low MOQs, so that starts to feed into the freedom side of things, which we'll talk about.
Can I just MOQ? It must stand for something.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, acronyms are rife these days. So minimum order quantity.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so that side of things where we only make what's ordered or what's needed. If we need to make changes to the design, we can, and there's minimum order quantities non-existent really. And we're manufacturing and assembling them in the UK, so this material isn't, the luminaires aren't being shipped from a long way, so we save carbon on the transportation of the fittings, and that in itself, the real core, we don't have tooling, so we have digital files, and essentially where we'd like to get to at some point is where we can send these files to site and potentially print the fittings in different countries without having to ship them. So there's huge potential on that side of things.
Can I just ask, the two things there that sort of bouncing around inside my head, I think, is one, the plastic aspect of the bioplastic aspect of things, and of course 3D printing. And 3D printing is not a new concept. We know that there are companies out there who are using it. It seems in the main that people are using 3D printing for sort of samples and just to sort of check things out along the way to make sure that, but not in actual production. But the bioplastic that you're using, is that something that's is readily available?
It's kind of a combination of the two, isn't it? So the 3D printing, you're right, is historically is always associated with rapid prototyping ones and twos because it's a long process. Where the 3D printing process we're using, it's a filament. So from the outset, it's a lower cost investment for the machine, but then the process itself is quite time efficient, particularly with the work that Jamie's done in the background on developing the systems around it. So that as a starting point means that we're no longer doing ones or fives. We're sort of creeping into mass production. And then combining that with the PLA, this material is, again, it's almost historically been like a hobbyist material because it's had its limitations. But now with the whole movement and sort of rapid acceleration of development in 3D printing, along comes with that is the development of materials. So the materials we are now using, we can use them for, let's say, industrial components, industrial scenarios, and not just for printing cats and smiley faces.
Okay. Now, the one thing, there's a whole army of people, probably several armies of people out there who, at the sound of the word plastic, will just either run a mile or they'll just run at you. You know,
yeah.
And it's one of those trigger words that goes, this cannot possibly be sustainable. Please, this is my ignorance as well now. We understand plastic waste. We understand the plastics that are floating around in the oceans, the sort of plastics that are ending up on landfill. Are we talking about something that is materially different to that, or are we talking about the capability of being able to use the oceans and the landfill almost as a plastics quarry to bring things back into use? Just give me a little bit of understanding on that one, please.
Yeah, I think that the negative impact of plastic or polymers is sort of been born through the decades of development and where plastic has got us to. So if you sort of take a step back, plastic as a concept is a wonder material. We can use it for nearly anything. It's lightweight, it's low cost, it's very flexible, it's very robust. The inherent properties of polymers is fantastic. The big negative is that they're fossil based, that we require petrochemicals to make these materials, and the shelf life of these materials is, nobody really knows. It's just, for forevermore. But the PLA, yes, it's a polymer, but its starting point is bio-based. So there's no requirement for fossil fuels. So if we're talking about the concept of sustainability, it's grown from crop. So you're just relying on growing things. So there's a circular element there. But then through the lifespan of the product, there's no nasties in it, basically. So compared to general plastics, if we use them appropriately, not for single-use packaging, etc., then you can get a good use out of that as a material. Where we're now taking that step forward, where we're not consuming fossil fuels to create this material. So we're kind of making the most of the advantages of polymers, but removing the negatives of conventional polymers, if that makes sense.
Oh, yes, it does. Does that mean that if say the use, if you like, of raw virgin fossil fuels is obviously we're trying to leave it in the ground and so on. The fact that we've got millions of tons of used plastic, existing plastic, can you use that stuff?
Yeah, you can do. There is recycled plastic filament, and you can 3D print things in that plastic for sure.
The reason I'm asking is that you said an interesting thing that Jamie, about not having to deliver fittings around the world, because wherever your project is, okay, that could be it could be in Singapore, it could be in Chile, it could be in San Francisco, it could be absolutely anywhere. But the one thing that would need to be available, apart from a very sexy 3D printing machine, I suspect, is the actual the filament material itself. And I wonder if we're looking at that sort of globe, and this is a whole new idea. So I'm not expecting you guys to have the perfect answer on this one. So this is just coming like this. if somebody in another part of the world says, well, all of the plastics that we are dedicated to sweeping up all the rubbish because we have got so much devastation in our land around pre-used plastics, that wouldn't make a lot of difference to you. Okay, a fitting's got a light fitting's got to look interesting. It's got to have an aesthetic quality to it. But if it was made out of old water bottles, would that really matter to you?
I think it definitely works for some applications. I know there's issues with sort of the tolerance on the diameter of the filament and the color consistency, but there's no reason you couldn't use it for some of the parts. Is definitely something that can be done. But going back to the PLA, and PLA is widely available all over the world.
Okay.
And it's quite easy to produce, and it has a carbon footprint. It's 33% less than petrochemical plastics. Of course, there would be energy going in to recycle those plastics, but it absolutely could be done, but just not for everything, I don't think.
Okay, this is the problem when somebody comes and sort of opens a new door onto a new landscape, inevitably we're all going to go, can we go over there? I wonder what's over there. And you go, hang on a second, can we just actually stand on the patio and just have a look at the landscape in front of us?
That's the thing with the sort of the idea of what we're presenting now, is that there's two really new aspects for the industry. They're not new aspects as a whole, but they're new aspects for the industry, which is using 3D printing for mass production and this alternative material. So these are not the be all and end all that's going to replace every single manufacturing process, because at the end of the day, if we're talking about sustainable luminaires, we're making a product and using the materials which are best suited for that product to make it robust and long lasting, and can be reused and reused. So the 3D printing, it covers many aspects, but there are some limitations. But we're focusing on where we can use it best, which is low to mid-tier volumes. And let's say where we are starting with LumiAdd is in interior architectural products, and from that we'll grow.
And I guess that brings us on to the design aspect of this sustainable model, because at the end of the day, it might be sustainable, but is it any good? Does it look good? Does it work well? The three. Here's another three for you: reliability, performance, and cost. The three legs of the stool of specification, if you like.
Yeah.
And in all of that, it's got to be. And first of all, you go, do you like the look of it?
Yeah.
So how did you guys get to that place? I mean, you've both got a history in product design. I know that. So that I'm assuming that's a good place to start. But but were you sitting down and going, I wonder what a range of 3D printed light fittings would look like? Or did you actually get together to design light fittings and then the penny dropped? Which way round was that?
I think it started as almost a bit of a challenge, because I've been obsessed with 3D printing for over a decade now, 3D printing all sorts of stuff. And I sat down with Lewis. We used to sort of meet up for design discussions every couple of months. And I said to him one day, well, why can't you just 3D print architectural, a whole light fitting? And Lewis was on the skeptical side, but didn't sort of rule it out. But he was kind of the opinion that it was really for prototyping and development. And it really sort of snowballed from there, didn't it, Lewis? So that I printed one, and Lewis said, that's not great. And then we sort of incrementally, it got better until we said, hang on, we've got the print time right down. The volume isn't an issue anymore. It looks good. And the one reservation we had was, when you 3D print something, especially when you 3D print it quickly, it has lots of layer lines. And we weren't sure how that would go down with architects and designers. And I can honestly say the feedback so far about the layer lines has been all positive. Everyone says it's sort of tactile, it's honest to the production method, and so far, and everybody seems to like it, which is great. So that's ticked the box of how does it look. As a material, as a reliability, it's a very robust material. As long as you design as long as you design facilitates the robustness, and you've got the right amount of material where it's needed. I've kicked some of the downlight cans around the workshop to see how tough they are, and as long as you design it right, it's very tough.
I think the other topic is that there's new materials. Even just 2 weeks ago, there was a new PLA material release, which was like a matte finish. So we're of an advantage position where we're sort of riding this wave of all these new advancements in PLA materials. It comes back to the concept of polymers. Polymers have got 50 or 60 years head start on us, whereas we're at this forefront of PLA that's now transitioning to more industrial applications. So we've got these new materials coming through with new properties, whether they're decorative properties or mechanical properties, high temperatures and stuff like that. And the topic of design is, exactly as Jamie said, it was like, well, why can we not 3D print these? And I didn't really have a good answer. Why not? It's just the not automatic response is, well, I've never done it before, so I don't know. But as you start to develop it, you start to understand about the limitations and where you can go with it. And again, it's just designing appropriate products to suit the properties and the benefits of 3D printing and PLA. And if we're talking about luminaires, we're kind of developing these products using conventional elements, which are the bits that we can't print. So a heat sink, the light engine, and the optic. So that's kind of like the backbone of our product, and that makes it a good product. So good efficiencies, good quality of light, good optical control, because at the end of the day, there's only so much you can bang home the PLA 3D printing drum. If it's not a good product, it's not a good product. You're way without your sustainability scope and the whole concept of circularity, because you've got a rubbish product that doesn't perform like it should do. Yeah. So starting from basics, we've got these good elements, and now we package it.
When you started talking to the LED guys with their engines and all the rest of it, were there raised eyebrows about the idea of putting these things in a plastic box?
No, I think from their perspective, they're not blinkered to conventional manufacturing. Their focus is a light engine, and as long as it's thermally managed appropriately, then you've got so much scope. So again, the way we've developed these from the scratch is that we work within the confines of the PLA and the 3D printing, but the PLA it's a robust material. So as long as we thermally manage the light engine appropriately, as you would with any good luminaire, then there's no limitation. So I think that there's initial concerns when we were talking about this that PLA, I don't understand it. What's it going to do? But we know this. We understand the limitations of the property of the material. And to be honest, it's not too different from conventional materials like ABS. So it's not like we're worlds apart. It's just that there's this complete unknown to the industry that will over time will be able to educate people and as we learn from new materials as well.
Yeah, I think there was some initial grumbling about the heat resistance of the PLA. So we've done a lot of testing on this, and as Lewis said, as the materials advanced, we did a video of a 3D printed cup that said LumiAdd on it, and we pour boiling water in it, and it's absolutely fine, because there's a bit of a misconception that the glass transition temp is an issue with it, but like Lewis said, as long as you thermally manage the fitting properly, it's not a problem at all.
Okay. Yeah. Right, which brings us to the third one. And as Bobby McGee said, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Sorry, that's my age getting in the way there. Freedom. You can go where you like, it says here. What does freedom mean? This is the bit that I'm really excited about, because this is really going. I know we're doing this today, but actually, day after tomorrow, the world is ours. So where's the freedom taking you, do you think?
Do you want to go for that, Jamie?
Yeah, that's it. Wow, that's a good one. Really interesting places. I think we've already had quite a lot of inquiries, and we're developing custom luminaires at the moment. And it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because the freedom implies that we don't have tooling, so we can change the design, or we can do bespoke or custom designs without those barriers, those financial barriers of hard tooling. But as I was saying, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because it's kind of like, well, you can do anything almost. You know, there's some constraints. We can't print really crazy geometry because it just takes too long, or we can't do overhangs and things because it takes the print time up, and that's the cost ramps up. But when you have that freedom, you have to try and develop not too open a brief, because it can sort of snowball. But so far, the freedom side of things has just been really interesting to work on.
That sounds fantastic. It really does. I'm conscious that one of the yeah, let's talk in conventional language, specials manufacturers. And Jamie, you and I have known some specials manufacturers over the years. And one of the problems with people who make specials is they don't make anything at all. If you say, well, where's your catalogue? Well, we haven't got a catalogue. Well, why not? Well, because everything that we do is specific to a job. So how do we know what you do?
Yeah,
it's almost as you know, that thing about freedom is, woof, what do you want? Well, what have you got? What do you want?
Yeah, and then people don't necessarily know what they want, and
Well,
I think guys, I think this is such an exciting opportunity here to show the world that there are different ways of doing things. I love it that the two of you, have got a background in design. You know, we've gone through the whole sort of technocratic revolution into the LED, and it's taken some time to get design back on the table. So the idea that you're going, we're using a revolutionary new way of building light fittings, but it's all in the design, and that's great. Thank you for your time. I don't think this will be the last time we're going to do this, because I'm going to be wanting to catch up with you and see what's happened. See what happens next.
Definitely. Thank you.
Lewis, thank you. Jamie, thank you. And to everyone watching, thank you very much. And keep your eyes and ears open for LumiAdd and see what's going on out there. And be impressed. Be very impressed. Thank you very much.